My 4-year-old son has an imaginary friend called the tall boy. I need help. I don't know where else to turn, and I know how this is going to sound, but I'm terrified for my son. This morning, my 4-year-old looked at me over his untouched cereal and said, "Daddy, the tall boy says he can take me to see Mama." My wife died last year, a car accident. My son barely remembers her. Let me back up. It started about 6 months ago. My son, I'll call him C, started talking about his new friend. At first I thought it was sweet. He's an only child, I work from home, and honestly, I thought maybe I wasn't doing enough to socialize him. Kids his age have imaginary friends, right? Honestly, I was kind of relieved he had someone to play with, even if it was just pretend. He called him the tall boy. The name was a little odd, but he's only 4, so I didn't give it much thought. I asked C what the tall boy looked like. He just shrugged and said, "He's tall." All right then. For the first month, it was harmless. C would have conversations with the empty air. He would giggle at jokes I couldn't hear, and he would often be sitting on one side of the room playing with his toys, and he would always set out a toy for the tall boy. When I would ask him what they would talk about, he'd say, "Just stuff. He's my friend." Then he started setting a place for tall boy at dinner. An extra plate, an extra cup, and he would get upset if I didn't leave an empty chair next to him. "That's where the tall boy sits," he would say, looking at me like I was being rude or something. So naturally, I went along with it. What else was I supposed to do? It wasn't hurting anyone for me to set out an extra plate and cup for dinner. The first red flag came about 2 months in. We were reading before bed, and out of nowhere C says, "The tall boy said you had a dog named Dakota when you were little." I stared at him for a moment. I did have a dog named Dakota when I was a kid, but he died when I was a teenager, and there's no way he would know that. I've never told him I had a dog. I don't even have photos of Dakota. And my wife's never met Dakota. There's no way that he could have known. "Who told you that?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "The tall boy," he said like it was obvious. I told myself maybe I'd mentioned it before and just forgot. Maybe he heard me on the phone with my sister or something. I was looking for any rational explanation. But then he said, "The tall boy says that he got hit by a truck." The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. That's exactly how Dakota died. I was at school. My mom told me he had run away because she thought I was too young to know the truth. I didn't find out the truth until I was 16. "See, where did you hear that?" "The tall boy told me," he said, and went back to looking at the book like he had just told me the sky is blue. I started paying more attention after that. C talked to the tall boy constantly, in his room, in the living room, even in the bathroom. Wherever C was in the house, the tall boy was apparently there too. But never when we left the house, never at the park or the grocery store, only at home. I'd even see him waving to an empty chair in the corner of a room, or an empty chair every time we left. Only at home. I'd even see him waving to an empty corner of the room or an empty chair every time we left. Then I started hearing things. Whispers when C was supposed to be asleep. At first I thought he was talking in his sleep, but when I pressed my ear to the door, I swear I heard 2 voices. C's high-pitched chatter, and then something lower, raspier. I would tell myself that it was just the house settling or a weird sound carrying in from outside. Then the breathing started. I'd be working in my office and I'd hear it. Slow, deliberate breaths. Like someone was breathing right behind me. I'd spin around. Nothing. It would happen in the kitchen while I was making dinner. I'd feel like someone was behind me and it would breathe on the back of my neck, but nothing would be there when I turned around. It would happen in the hallway when I was folding laundry. Always when I was alone. Doors started opening on their own. I'd close C's door at night and an hour later it would be wide open. Trying to convince myself it was nothing, I'd blame it on the old house, drafts, bad hinges on the doors, that sort of thing. But then C's room started getting cold. Not just cold, freezing. Even with the heat on, even in the middle of the day. I bought a small space heater, but it didn't help. I had to put extra blankets on his bed, and he would sleep in a hoodie. When I asked him if he was okay, he would just nod and say, "The tall boy doesn't like it when it's warm." That's when his behavior started to change. He got quiet, stopped playing with his toys. He would just sit on the bed and stare at the corner and have full conversations with nothing. When I tried to join him, he'd get quiet and look at me like I had interrupted something important. He stopped eating, or barely ate. He would just push his food around and say he wasn't hungry, but I'd catch him whispering to the empty chair next to him. Once I heard him say, "No, I can't. Daddy will get mad." I tried talking to him, asked if the tall boy was being nice to him. C looked at me with big, terrified eyes and said, "I can't make him go away." "What do you mean, buddy?" I asked him. "He won't go away," he whispered. I asked him to, but he said no. I told him imaginary friends aren't real, that he could just stop playing with him if he didn't want to anymore. C shook his head. "He's not imaginary, he's real." I didn't know what to do. I thought about therapy, but what was I supposed to say? My kid has an imaginary friend that scares him? They would just tell me that this is a phase. Then, 3 days ago, C said something that made me feel like I got punched in the gut. We were sitting on the couch watching cartoons when he looked at me and said, "The tall boy said that Mama was listening to the Yellow song when she died." My heart stopped. My wife was listening to Coldplay's Yellow when the driver crossed the median. I know this because the song was still playing when the paramedics arrived. I never told anyone that in detail. It's too painful. I can't even hear that song anymore without thinking of her. There's no way C could have known that. "C, how do you know that?" "The tall boy told me," he said. "He said he was there." I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab him and shake him and demand to know how he knew that. But he's 4, and he looked so small and scared that I just held him and told him it was okay. But it's not okay. Last night I heard footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, slow. I grabbed my gun from the side table and went out to check. C's door was wide open. I hid the gun behind my back and looked. C was sitting up in his bed, staring at the doorway. "C?" "He's here," C whispered. "Who's here?" "The tall boy." I slowly turned on the light, hands shaking, and then nothing. But C kept staring at the empty doorway, eyes wide. "C, no one is here." "Yes, there is," he said, and then he started to cry. "He's always here." I brought him to my bed. He clung to me and cried himself to sleep. And this morning, he said it. The thing that made me come here. Come to Reddit hoping that someone can help me. The tall boy says that he can take me to see Mama. I asked him what he meant. He says if I go with him, I can see her again, C said, his voice flat, emotionless. He says she misses me. I'm writing this while C is at preschool. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should keep him home. I don't know if leaving the house even matters because the thing is, whatever it is, seems tied to C, not just the house. I'm scared that whatever the tall boy is, he's trying to take my son from me. Has anyone else experienced anything like this? What do I do? I can't lose him too. I can't. Please, if anyone has advice, I need it. We left. I couldn't stay in that house another night. Thank you to everyone who commented on my last post. So many of you said the same thing. Get out of the house, go to a hotel, see if the tall boy follows. You were right. I needed to act instead of freezing in fear. But I need to tell you what happened because I think we made a terrible mistake. Yesterday, when C got home from preschool, he was different. Quiet. He wouldn't look at me. He went straight to his room and I heard him whispering to the corner. I stood outside his door and listened, and I heard 2 voices again. His and that same lower, raspier voice. But I couldn't make out what it was saying to him. It wasn't in a different language that I could tell. It was almost as if I was being blocked out. I could hear C fine, but when the other voice spoke, it just sounded like primal growls. I made the decision right away. We were leaving. I waited until C was watching TV. Hey, buddy. I waited until C was watching TV, and then I packed a bag for both of us. Clothes, toiletries, his favorite stuffed dinosaur, some bath toys. I set out the security alarm on the house, something I rarely do, but I wanted to know if anything happened while we were gone. When I told C we were going on an adventure and staying at a hotel, he looked at me with these huge eyes and asked, "Is the tall boy coming?" "Nobody," I said. "It's just gonna be you and me." He nodded slowly, but he looked scared. We drove for about 40 minutes to a town I've never been before. I wanted distance. I wanted to be far away enough that whatever was in our house couldn't follow. And for a few hours, I thought it worked. We stopped at McDonald's on the way. C ordered chicken nuggets. When they arrived, he actually ate them. All of them. He smiled at me. He laughed at something on the little toy that came with the meal. I almost cried right there in the booth because I hadn't seen him act like a normal 4-year-old in months. "You feeling better, buddy?" I asked. He nodded, mouthful of fries. "Uh-huh." You want to tell me about the tall boy? His smile faded a little, but he shook his head. Don't want to talk about him. Okay, I said. That's okay. We got to the motel around 7. It was nothing fancy, just a place off the highway, but it was clean and wasn't home. I checked us in, and C seemed fine, happy even. He sat on the bed and watched cartoons while I unpacked our stuff. He giggled at something Bluey did on the screen. I ordered pizza. He ate 2 slices. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. Around 8:30, I ran him a bath, and he played in the bubbles, making little mountains with his hands, and laughing when they collapsed. I sat on the edge of the tub and just watched him, feeling this overwhelming relief. We'd escaped. Whatever the tall boy was, he was back at the house, and we were here, and Steve was acting like himself again. See, I said, it's nice here, right? Just us. C nodded, pushing a rubber duck through water. Then he went still. His hand stopped moving. He stared at the tile wall across from the tub, eyes wide. C, you okay? He didn't answer. C? The tall boy is really mad we left, Daddy, he whispered. My stomach dropped. C, the tall boy isn't here. He can't follow us. C shook his head slowly, staring at the wall. He followed us. He's always with me. No, sweetie, he's not. He says we're going to be punished. The water in the tub suddenly felt too hot, the air too thick. I tried to keep my voice steady. See, look at me. You're safe, I promise. But he just kept staring at the wall, his little face pale and terrified. I got him out of the bath, dried him off, put him in his pajamas. He didn't say anything else. He just climbed to the bed and pulled the covers up to his chin. I turned the TV back on, some mindless cartoon, trying to make everything feel normal again. My phone rang. The number on the screen was my security company. Mr. Last name, the voice said. This is security company name, monitoring, showing that your alarm has been triggered, multiple sensors. Are you at home right now? No, I said, my mouth dry. I'm out of town. Do you want us to dispatch the police and check on the property? I looked at C. He was sitting up in bed now, staring at me. Yes, I said, please. I hung up and sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking. Daddy? C's voice was small. It's okay, buddy, just the alarm at home. Probably nothing. But it wasn't nothing. I knew it wasn't nothing. We waited. C didn't speak. I tried to distract him with the TV, but he wasn't watching. He was staring at the corner of the room now, that same dead-eyed stare he had at home. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. The police. Sir, we checked your residence, the officer said. Your front door was standing wide open. My heart stopped. What? The door was open. We cleared the house. No signs of forced entry, no damage. Nothing appears to be missing. Everything else looks secure. We've closed and locked the door. Do you have any idea who might have accessed your home? No, I said. I set the alarm when I left. The door was locked. Well, it's secure now, he said. You might want to check your locks when you get back. Could be a malfunction. I thanked him and hung up. The front door was open. Wide open. But nothing was taken. Nothing was disturbed. He was sending a message. I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to process it. How did the door open? How did the TV flicker? Once, twice. The screen went black for a second, then came back on. The lights dimmed. Not out, just dimmer. Like something was draining the power. I looked at C. He was crying, silent tears running down his face. C? I'm sorry, Daddy, he sobbed. I'm sorry, I told him we'd come back. He said if I promised he wouldn't hurt you. Please don't be mad. My blood turned to ice. What do you mean you promised? I told him, C cried harder. I told him we'd come home. I didn't want him to hurt you. When did you tell him that? In the car, at McDonald's, in the bath. He's always talking to me. He won't stop. Oh God, the whole time, even when C was happy, seemed normal. The tall boy was there, talking to him, manipulating him. He says we have to go home now, C whispered through his tears. He says we have to go home or he'll make it worse. I pulled C into my arms and held him while he cried. The TV flickered again. The lights dimmed lower. I don't know what to do. We can't run. He follows. He's always with C, no matter where we go, and now C has made some kind of bargain with him. Promised to go back, and I don't know what happens if we don't. I don't know what the tall boy is. I don't know what he wants, but I know we have to go home. We're checking out in the morning. We're going back. I'll update after we get there, if I can. Please, if anyone has dealt with something like this, if anyone knows what this thing is or how to stop it, tell me. I'm running out of time. We went home. I didn't know what else to do. The drive back home that morning felt like a funeral procession. C sat in the back seat, staring out the window, silent. I kept glancing at him in the rearview mirror, hoping to see some kind of sign of my son, but he looked hollow, empty. When we pulled into the driveway, I felt it immediately. The house looked the same. Same beige siding, same red door, same flowers I planted last spring, but something was wrong. It felt wrong. Like the air around it was heavier, darker, oppressive. It was as if the house was looking, no, staring at us. I could feel the oppressive eyes that were the windows, the grinning mouth that was our front deck that sagged with age. The house looked foreboding, ominous, evil. The tall boy knew we were home. C unbuckled himself and walked straight inside without waiting for me. No hesitation, like he was being pulled. I stood in the driveway for a moment, staring at the open front door, and every instinct in my body screamed for me to get back in the car and drive. Just drive and never come back. But he's my son. I can't leave him. Inside, the house was cold. Not just cool, cold. Like walking into a freezer. I checked the thermostat, 72 degrees, but I could see my breath. See? I called out. No answer. I found him in his room, sitting on his bed, staring at the corner, whispering. Hey, buddy, I said softly. You okay? He didn't look at me. The tall boy says you can't stop him. My blood ran cold. See, he says it's too late. I knelt down in front of him, trying to get him to look at me, but his eyes were fixed on that empty corner, glassy, distant. I made a decision right then. I went to my room, closed the door, and searched online for paranormal investigators. I felt ridiculous typing it into Google, but I was out of options. Therapy wasn't going to help. The police couldn't do anything. I needed someone who dealt with things that shouldn't exist. After what seemed like an eternity and a flood of forum Google searches, and about 36 results in either amateurs and fakes, I found a team about 3 hours away. The website looked professional, case studies, testimonials, photos of equipment. I called the number and got a voicemail. I left a message, and I'm not proud of how desperate I sounded. My name is blank. My 4-year-old son has been talking to someone he calls the tall boy for months. He knows things he shouldn't know, details about my childhood and my wife's death. His room is freezing cold no matter what I do. He stopped eating. He's losing weight. I can hear voices in his room at night. We tried to leave and it followed us. My son is terrified and so am I. Please, I need help. I hung up and sat at my desk, my head in my hands, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life by admitting all of this out loud to a stranger. I sounded like a head case, certifiably insane. There's no way they were gonna call back. I paced around my office and I went to check on C, and he was still in his room, staring off into nothing. I asked him if he was hungry. He shook his head. I asked if he wanted to watch Aladdin, his favorite movie. Again, he shook his head. He just stared at the corner of the room. After what felt like hours, my phone rang. This is, redacted, a woman's voice said, I got your message. I'm a medium and I work with a paranormal investigation team. Can you tell me more about what's happening? I told her everything. The imaginary friend, the things C knew, the cold room, the whispers, the breathing, the hotel, the door opening at home. C promised to come back, and the voice sounded like primal growls. There was a long silence on the other end. We can be there this afternoon, she said finally. I'm clearing our schedule. What you're describing, we need to see this as soon as possible. Is it that bad? I asked. Another pause. I don't want to scare you, but yes, it sounds very bad. We'll be there by 3. They arrived at 2:47 p.m. 3 people got out of a white van. The medium was a woman in her 40s, dark hair that fell to her shoulders, wearing jeans and a simple black jacket. Professional, calm. The other 2 were younger, a man and a woman, both carrying equipment cases. I'm blank, said the woman, shaking my hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes were kind but serious. These are my colleagues. They'll be taking readings and documenting everything. Where's your son? In his room, I said. Show us. I led them through the house. The medium walked slowly, her eyes moving over everything. She paused. She'd pause occasionally, tilting her head like she was listening to something I couldn't hear. The baseline temperature and EMF readings are normal here, the man said, checking the device in the living room. Nothing unusual. We moved through the kitchen, the hallway, my bedroom, a few blips here and there. The team wrote things down on a small notebook as they went through the house. Then we got to C's room. The moment the medium stepped into the doorway, she stopped. Her whole body went rigid. "Oh," she said quietly. "Oh, this is very bad." The temperature drop was immediate and obvious. The man with the thermal camera swore under his breath. "It's 48 degrees in here. The rest of the house is 72. EMF is spiking," the woman said, her meter beeping frantically. "This shouldn't be possible. There's no electric source that would cause this." C was sitting on his bed, exactly where I left him, staring at the corner. The medium knelt down in front of him, keeping her distance. "Hi, sweetheart. My name is blank. Can you tell me who you're talking to?" C finally looked at someone. His eyes focused on her, and for a moment, he looked like my son again. "The tall boy," he whispered. "Is he here right now?" C nodded. "Where?" C pointed to the corner, the empty corner where he'd been staring. The medium stood up slowly, her eyes never leaving that corner. She took a step toward it. That's when C changed. His face twisted into something ugly, angry, and he screamed, "Get out! You can't be here!" "C, it's okay," I started. "No," he shrieked, and suddenly he was off the bed, trying to push past me, trying to get to the medium. "She has to leave! Get out of here!" But it wasn't his voice. It was deeper, raspier, wrong. I grabbed him, held him back, but he was thrashing, screaming, fighting me with a strength that didn't make sense for a 4-year-old. "That's not your son right now," the medium said calmly. "The entity is using him. It knows I'm a threat." "Please," I begged, holding C in my arms. "Please, you have to help him." The medium's eyes were still in that corner. "I will, but first, I need to understand what we're dealing with." She spent the next hour taking readings, asking questions, documenting everything. C eventually exhausted himself and sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, whispering every once in a while he would look up and stare at the medium, his eyes dark and full of hate that a 4-year-old couldn't know. This was beyond hate. This was loathing. The tech team captured EVP recordings when they played them back later beneath C's whispers. There was that voice, the growling, primal voice, saying things I couldn't make out, but that made my skin crawl. They took photos, and some of them there was a shadow in the corner, a tall shadow that shouldn't have been there given the lighting. Finally, the medium sat down with me in the living room while her team continued documenting. C was in his room, door opened where I could see him. "What you're dealing with is not an imaginary friend," she said. "It's a parasitic energy, a grief demon." "A what?" "They target people who are grieving, usually children, because children are more vulnerable. Their energy is easier to feed on." "When did your wife die?" "A year ago. Car accident." She nodded grimly. "That's when it attached to your son. These entities, they're drawn to grief like sharks to blood. They find families that have experienced loss and they feed on the pain, the fear, the sadness. But how does it know things about me? My childhood, my dog Dakota? It's been watching you, learning about you. These things are patient. They observe, they wait, and when the opportunity presents itself, when you're at your most vulnerable, they strike. Your wife's death created the perfect opening. Your son was grieving. You were grieving. It attached to him, but it's been feeding off both of you." My stomach turned. "What do you mean feeding?" "The cold in his room, yeah, that's it drawing energy. The fact that he's not eating, that he's losing weight, it's draining his life force. The isolation, the fear, the intimate knowledge is shared, all of it is designed to make you both feel powerless, hopeless. The more despair you feel, the stronger it becomes." "What does it want?" Her expression darkened. "It wants to consume your son completely. Right now, it's still in the parasitic stage, feeding on him, weakening him. But eventually, if left unchecked, it will have drained enough of his energy, his will, his life force, that there will be nothing left to fight back. And then, it'll take him fully." "Take him where?" "Not where. Take him, as in possess him. Become him. And once it has your son, it will continue to feed off your grief forever. Or," she hesitated, "or what? Or it will come for you next." I felt like I was gonna be sick. How do we stop it? "There's a ritual, a banishment, but it's not easy and it's not safe. We need specific items. Blessed sage, holy water, religious text. consecrated crosses. We need to create a space of protection and force the energy out through prayer and spiritual warfare. It will fight us, and it will fight hard. When can we do it? I need today to gather everything we need to prepare. I need to meditate. This isn't something we can rush into. One mistake and she stopped herself. And what? And it could kill him, or all of us. Before I could respond, the temperature in the house plummeted. I could see my breath again, thick clouds of it. The lights flickered. Everyone stay calm, the medium said, standing up. The air felt wrong, thick, oppressive, like something was pressing down on me from all sides. And then I saw him, in the hallway, standing between me and C's room, the tall boy. He wasn't human, he wasn't even a shadow on the wall. He was three-dimensional, solid in a way that didn't make sense. Like darkness had peeled itself away from the walls and had taken shape. He was impossibly tall, at least 7 feet, maybe more, looming, his head nearly touching the ceiling. His body was wrong, too long, too thin, proportions that made my brain hurt to look at. And his eyes, two burning red points in that massive shadow, staring at me, through me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The medium stepped forward, positioning herself between me and the entity. You are not welcome here, she said, her voice steady but loud. This family is under protection. You need to... The entity moved. It didn't walk. It surged forward, impossibly fast, and suddenly it was inches from the medium's face. She stumbled back, gasping. Doors throughout the house began slamming. Open, shut, open, shut. The sound was deafening. Pictures flew off the wall, glass shattering. The furniture in the living room shook. Daddy, C screamed from his room. I tried to run to him, but something stopped me. I felt a searing pain come across my chest and looked down and pulled my shirt up. 3 long scratches appearing across my skin. Blood welled up immediately. The entity hadn't touched me. It was standing in the hallway, but I was bleeding. The medium's eyes were wide, locked on the energy. Her lips were moving. Praying, I think. But I couldn't hear her over the chaos. The slamming doors, C screaming, my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Then the entity had turned its attention to her. I watched in horror as it leaned down, its faceless head inches from hers. Its mouth, if it had a mouth, moved. The medium went pale. She was hearing something I couldn't. The entity spoke to her for maybe 10 seconds, and then it was gone. Just gone. The slamming stopped. The cold lessened slightly. The oppressive weight lifted. The medium staggered backwards and sat down hard on the couch. Her hands were shaking. What did it say? I asked, pressing my hands to her bleeding chest. What did it tell you? She looked at me, and I've never seen anyone look so scared. It said it's almost done, that it's been feeding on your son for months, and it's almost strong enough to take what it wants. It said we can try to stop it, but it's more powerful than anything we've ever faced. It's been planning this since before your wife died. What do you mean before? She swallowed hard. I don't know, but it wanted me to be afraid. It wanted me to know that even I might not be able to stop this. But you're gonna try, right? The ritual? We do it tomorrow night, she said firmly, though I could still see the fear in her eyes. I'll prepare everything. We'll place consecrated crosses around his room, burn blessed sage, use prayers from religious text. We'll do everything we can to force the stain out. Will it work? She met my eyes. I don't know. In 20 years of doing this work, I've never encountered anything this powerful, this angry. But we have to try, because if we don't... She looked towards C's room. Another few days, maybe a week at most, and C won't be strong enough to fight back. The entity will be strong enough to fully take him, and there will be nothing anyone can do. The team packed up quickly after that. The medium gave her cell phone number. Keep him close tonight. Don't let him out of your sight. And if anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. Do you understand? I understand. And I watched them leave. The house felt like you were in a dark forest with unknown specters hiding in the shadows, watching. The silence was menacing. My ears rang. I've never heard a silence so loud that you could feel the house breathing, watching, waiting to strike. I went to the bathroom and cleaned up the wound on my chest. Then I went to C. Why don't we sleep in my room tonight? He just stared forward, never losing sight of the corner. He was frozen in place. Frozen in fear? In obedience of the tall boy? I don't know, but he wouldn't move. I slept on the floor in his bedroom with him, or at least what little sleep I could get in the house now that I knew what was in it, waiting for tomorrow, praying for this to be over. I don't know when I fell asleep or for how long, but I woke up this morning and the house was dark. There was no power, and the feeling of the house was overwhelming. The medium and her team will be here in a few hours. I'm gonna try and keep my sanity waiting for them and keep C close. Pray for us. I don't know how this will end. I'll update as soon as I can, if we survive this. They came early. I'd been sitting in C's room for hours, watching him stare at that corner, watching the darkness press in around us. The house had no power. My phone was at 23%. Every shadow felt alive. Watching, waiting. When I heard the van pull up at 4:47 p.m., more than 2 hours early, I nearly cried with relief. The medium came through the door carrying 2 large duffel bags. Her team followed with equipment cases and boxes. She took one look at me and her expression hardened. "It's gotten worse," she said. Not a question. "The power went out this morning. It won't come back on, and see, he hasn't moved. It's been staring at that corner for hours. He won't eat, won't drink, won't speak, just keeps mumbling to himself." She set the bags down and immediately went to C's room. I followed. C was exactly where I'd left him, sitting on his bed, back rigid, eyes locked on that empty corner. His lips were moving slightly, whispering something that I couldn't hear. The medium knelt down in front of him but didn't touch him. "C, can you hear me, sweetheart?" Nothing. No response. His eyes didn't even flicker. "He's almost gone," she said quietly, standing up. "This entity has been draining him all night. We need to do this now. We don't have time to wait for tonight." "What do we need to do?" "Everyone helps. This isn't something I can do alone. We're going to create a barrier of protection around this room, and then we're going to force that thing out, and it's going to fight us, and it's going to try and hurt us, but we cannot stop once we start, no matter what happens. Do you understand?" I nodded, though I wasn't sure I did. The next 30 minutes were a blur of preparation. The team brought in everything: bundles of dried sage tied with string, small glass bottles of holy water, a worn leather Bible, and crosses, maybe a dozen of them, each one made of dark wood, hanging from simple chains. The medium explained that they had been blessed by a priest specifically for this purpose. She handed the cross to each of us. "Keep these on, their protection. Don't take them off." She began placing crosses around C's room. On each wall, above the door, on the window frame, she positioned them carefully, whispering prayers as she hung each one. C didn't react, didn't move, just kept staring at that corner. The temperature in the room dropped another 10 degrees. I could see everyone's breath now. "He knows what we're doing," the medium said. "He's gathering his strength. Everyone, positions." We formed a semicircle around C. The medium stood directly in front of him. I was to her left, her 2 team members on the right. She pulled out the sage bundles and lit them. The smoke was thick and white, filling the room with a sharp, clean smell. She walked around the space, waving the burning sage, speaking in Latin, words I didn't understand, but that felt heavy, important. Then she set the sage in a small bowl, and I picked up the Bible. When I began the prayers, "You all repeat after me, every word, loud and clear, don't stop, don't hesitate, and whatever happens, don't break the circle." She opened the Bible to a marked page. "Are we ready?" We all nodded. She took a deep breath and began. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" We repeated it. Our voices sounded small in the cold room. "The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid?" Again, we repeated. The temperature dropped further. The crosses on the wall began to rattle slightly. The medium's voice grew stronger, more commanding. "We call upon the divine power of the Almighty to cast out this darkness. This entity has no claim here. This child is protected. This family is protected." The rattling grew louder. C's head twitched, just slightly. "In the name of all that is holy and righteous, we command you to leave this place. You are not welcome. You have no power here." The lights, still off, flickered. Once. Twice. And then the room went completely dark. Not just dark. Black. Like something had swallowed every bit of light. We were in a void. "Keep praying," came the medium's voice from somewhere in the void. "Don't stop." We continued, our voices rising in the darkness. I couldn't see C anymore. I couldn't see anything. I just heard the prayers echoing around me and felt the cold burning my lungs with every breath. Then I heard it. A low, rumbling growl that seemed to come from everywhere at once. From the walls, from the floor, from inside my own chest. "By the power of Psalm 91, we rebuke you," the medium's voice rang out. "No evil shall befall upon this house. No plague shall come near this dwelling." The growl turned into a roar. Every cross on the wall flew off simultaneously, clattering to the floor. The furniture shook. The windows cracked with a sound like a gunshot. "Keep praying," the medium screamed. I could barely hear myself over the chaos, the roaring, the sounds of things breaking, my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Something brushed past me in the darkness. Something big. Something that radiated cold so intense that it hurt. Then the lights came back on, and the tall boy was standing in the center of the room. Not hiding anymore, not lurking in corners, fully manifested. That impossible height, that too-thin body made of living shadow, those burning red eyes fixed on the medium. The male tech investigator screamed. The tall boy moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. It surged forward and grabbed him, lifted him off the ground like he weighed nothing, roared so loud that my ears rang. I thought for sure he had burst my eardrums. The tall boy threw him across the room. He hit the wall with a sickening crack and crumbled to the floor. "Don't break the circle," the medium commanded, even as her voice shook. The female tech started towards her colleague, but the medium grabbed her arm. "The circle holds, we finish this." The tall boy turned its attention back to us, specifically to the medium. It moved toward her, and the air pressure in the room changed. My ears popped, the pain almost unbearable. The temperature plummeted so fast that frost formed on the windows. The medium stood her ground, Bible held in front of her like a shield, and spoke with a voice that didn't sound entirely like her own anymore. Stronger, deeper. "What do you want with this child? In the name of the divine, I command you to answer. Why see?" The tall boy stopped, inches from her face, leaned down, and then it happened. The medium's eyes went completely black. Her mouth opened, but the voice that came out wasn't hers. It was that growling, primal voice. The voice from C's room. The voice from my nightmares. "His grief tastes so sweet," the voice said through her mouth. But the mother, oh, the mother tasted even better. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "What did you do to her?" I heard myself ask, my voice breaking. The medium's voice turned towards me, those black eyes fixed on mine, and she smiled. It was the most horrible thing I'd ever seen. Her mouth stretched into the most menacing smile, so wide that it didn't even seem natural. Blood trickled down the corners of her mouth. I thought for sure he was going to tear her mouth and face. "I took her first," the tall boy said through her. "She's been with me all this time, screaming, crying, begging, and soon the boy will join her." "No," I shouted. "No, you're lying." Would you like to hear her voice? And then I did. My wife's voice, screaming, not words, just pure raw terror and agony. The sound of someone in unimaginable pain. The sound of someone who's been suffering for far long that there's nothing left but the screaming. "Stop it!" I shouted, tears streaming down my face. "Let her go! Let them both go!" The laughter that came from the medium's mouth was inhumane, mad. It filled the room, drowning out everything. More crosses fell. The window shattered completely. The pictures on the wall flew off and crashed into the floor. "You have no power here," I screamed. "You can't have him. You can't have my son." The laughter continued. The medium's body jerked and spasmed like she was fighting something inside of her. Then, through the chaos, through the laughter and the breaking glass, my wife's scream still echoed in my head. I heard it. A small voice. "Daddy?" I looked at C. His eyes were different, clearer, focused. He was looking at me, really looking at me. "Daddy, I'm scared," he whispered. I wanted to stop. Something in me broke, or maybe something in me became stronger than it ever had been. I lunged forward, grabbed Seed, pulled him into my arms. "I got you," I said, holding him tight. "I've got you, buddy. I'm not letting go." The female tech moved to my side, began praying louder. The male tech, still on the floor but conscious, started praying too. The medium's body was still jerking, but she was fighting. I could see her fighting. Her lips were moving, forming words, even though the tall boy's voice was still coming through her mouth. "See," I said, pulling back to look at him. "I need you to be brave. I need you to tell the tall boy to go away. Can you do that?" C's eyes were wet with tears, but he nodded. "Tell him, C. Tell him he has to leave." C's voice was small but clear. "Go away. You have to go away. I don't want you here anymore." The laughter stopped. The medium gasped, and her eyes flickered, black to brown to black to brown. "Louder, C," I urged him. "Tell him." "Go away," C shouted, his voice small but cracking. "You can't have me. I don't want you." The medium screamed. The sound was awful. Two voices at once, hers and the tall boy's. both screaming. She fell to her knees. We all started praying, all of us at once, the words tumbling over each other, desperate and loud and furious. The female tech threw holy water onto the medium's face. She screamed in pain, and we saw the water boil off her skin, steam rising into the air off her face. Redness formed where the water hit. The tech repeated, "No evil shall befall upon this house. No plague shall come near this dwelling," splashing holy water on her face. The medium screamed in pain, but it was working as the tech continued the prayer. The tall boy's form began to flicker, like static, like it couldn't hold its shape anymore. "In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we cast you out," the medium's voice, her real voice, broke through, strong and clear. "You have no claim here. You have no power. Leave this place." The tech took one of the crosses, poured holy water on it, and slammed it into the medium's forehead. "Leave this place at once. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I command you to leave." The entity threw its head back and screamed, "We cast you out. We cast you back to hell." The sound wasn't just noise. It was something physical. It hit me like a wave, knocked me backwards. My ears rang. Blood dripped from my nose. The male tech began to shout another prayer. "Saint Michael, the archangel, defend us in a battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray, and do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen." "Come on, everybody needs to say it," said the tech. We all shouted the prayer over and over. The wall shook so violently, I thought the house would collapse. Both techs began to pray in Latin, repeating Psalm 67. They repeated that over and over, and then there was light. Blinding, white light that filled every corner of the room, so bright I had to close my eyes. And the most horrible scream I've ever heard, so demonic and animalistic that it made my blood run cold. I fell to my knees, wrapped sea in my arms, and covered my ears, repeating the prayer of St. Michael while the techs repeated their prayer in Latin. The screaming stopped, and the lights faded, and I could see again. The tall boy was gone. The medium collapsed on the floor, gasping for air. The male tech was being helped up by his colleague, and C was in my arms, trembling but conscious. The room was destroyed. Glass everywhere, crosses scattered across the floor, pictures broken, but it was warm. The oppressive cold was gone. And then, all at once, the power came back on. The lights flickered to life. I heard the refrigerator hum in the kitchen, and the heater kicked on. "Is it over?" I asked, my voice hoarse. "Is he gone?" The medium pulled herself up, sitting, wiping blood from her face. She looked exhausted. Haunted, but she nodded. "He's gone," she said. "I can't feel him anymore. The presence is gone." I held C tighter and started crying. Relief, grief, exhaustion, everything at once. We sat in that destroyed room for a long time. The medics came for the injured tech, broken ribs, but nothing life-threatening. The mediums team to help her to her living room. Someone brought water. Before they left, the medium pulled me aside. "Your son is strong," she said. Stronger than that thing had anticipated. That's what saved him in the end. He fought back. "Is it really over?" She hesitated. "The entity has been banished, forced out. Your son is free from its hold. But these entities, they can return. If C experiences significant trauma or grief, if he becomes vulnerable again, you need to keep him close. Keep him safe. Keep him happy. And if you ever notice anything, cold rooms, imaginary friends, strange behavior, you call me immediately. Do you understand?" I understood. "Will he remember this?" I asked. Most children don't retain clear memories of paranormal experiences. The mind protects itself. He might remember pieces, or he might not remember any of it. Either way, he's been through trauma. Be patient with him. After they left, I ordered pizza. C ate 3 slices. 3 full slices. I almost cried watching him. He fell asleep on the couch during a cartoon, and I'd carried him to his room. His room was warm, normal. I sat on the edge of the bed and watched him sleep for a long time. He looked peaceful, like my son again. But I couldn't stop hearing my wife's screams, couldn't stop seeing those red eyes, couldn't stop wondering if what the tall boy said was true, if she'd really been suffering this whole time. I don't know if I'll ever know. I'm writing this from C's bedroom floor. He's asleep in his bed above me, and I brought a blanket and pillow. I can't leave him alone yet. Maybe I never will. About an hour ago, something happened. C made a sound in his sleep, a small giggle, just a quiet little laugh. I sat up immediately watching him. He smiled in his sleep, his lips moving slightly, whispering something I couldn't make out. "See?" I whispered. He didn't wake up, just kept smiling, kept whispering. I grabbed the thermometer from my pocket. I began keeping it on me since the medium left. I checked the room temperature. 70 degrees. I checked again. 70 degrees. But just for a second, just a fraction of a second, I swear the air felt colder. I'm probably just paranoid. The medium said the entity is gone and all the readings were normal. C is eating again, sleeping peacefully, acting like himself. But I keep thinking about that giggle, the way his lips moved like he was talking to someone. I have the medium's number ready. My finger is hovering over the call button. But what would I tell her? That C giggled in his sleep? That the room felt cold for 1 second? She'd tell me it's trauma. Hypervigilance. My mind playing tricks on me. Maybe she's right. C just rolled over in his sleep. He's peaceful, breathing normally, and the room is warm. Everything is fine. It has to be fine. I'll keep watching tonight, and tomorrow night, and every night after that. I'll update if anything else happens. I'm praying to God that nothing does. So that is the end of the story. My son has an imaginary friend called the Tall Boy, and that is a 4-part series, so I really hope that you guys enjoyed this long story. I had an amazing time reading it. As always, all credit goes to the authors of these stories. I will have their links in the description below to their Reddit, to the stories, so definitely check them out, read along, tell them Natalie sent you. But I am definitely curious to know what your guys' thoughts and opinions on this story. Do you think the entity is gone? Do you think it's ever gonna come back? I am praying that the entity is gone forever, that they don't have to deal with this anymore. If you enjoy these types of stories, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any stories you'd like to share or any paranormal experiences, comment them down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Natalie, and I will see you guys next time.